And when they go back to university to register that subject, they are told it's not at the university where the management have to sit. So even next year, they are afraid if they're not going to do that module, they are not going. Their salary will keep on like that. So they are still struggling with the many campus to make sure that they introduce that module so that they do it. So it's a serious concern at the University of Namibia, and the independence is there. So maybe I will request the chief of the chancellor of the university through the minister of higher education to intervene as a matter of urgency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are you done? Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
I hope you have formally raised the issue with UNAM as well, over and above your question now. I hope they are aware of the issues. Next, the last one, the Honorable Kalongonia.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, His Excellency. Wish you strength, good health in this new role that you are in, and I will always pray that the Almighty is always going to take care of you. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, mine is just because I am an ordinary Namibian and I'm living along ordinary Namibians. I have just a few concerns that I wanted your office to take note of. And one of my ordinary concerns is currently now we have communities that have been recognized as marginalized communities years back. And then these peoples are getting preferential treatment to see to it that they are really surviving, because they were not surviving. But now with the economic downturn and all these other things that have come in, the COVID and everything, within the communities that are not recognized as marginalized, these peoples cannot make ends meet anymore. These peoples are really suffering. And currently now they are only relying on the drought relief that was introduced now, and even my Right Honorable Prime Minister, it is testimony to it that we have went to the extent of trying to see to it that the Bagalakati community in Aminus can also be put on board as marginalized, because these peoples cannot make it on their own. And there are a lot of them in our communities that cannot even have a meal per day. What is it that we can do as government to see to it that every Namibian is going to have a meal a day? That is my first thing that I wanted to put on the table of His Excellency. Secondly, that there are new criteria roaming around on the resettlement farms. And some of these criteria are linked to, you should have a $2 million, collective income and whatever you have for you to acquire a farm of so many hectares. You have to have 1.5 million to acquire a farm of these hectares. These new criteria, did it really enjoy the attention of the highest office in Namibia? Because to me, it's one of those things that the technocrats are going to put in, because if you go into these resettlement farms and see who is resettled, is the haves. And the people that are really in need of land are never resettled. And if we allow these criteria again to go on as it is, only the haves will be resettled at the end of the day. Is it what we are saying, and this is what the Second Land Conference have advised us to do? Can we look into these new reverse resettlement criteria, and then, My Excellency, can your office pronounce itself on that criteria? And the last, His Excellency, Namibia and the constituency of Aminus and the Mahege region have been blessed with vitamin, and animals are lying on that road. 3 days back, there was a court case on where someone have bumped a cattle on that road, and the owner of that cattle today should contribute to the insurance of that particular person that have bumped the cattle on the road. How many cattle are going to be bumped on that road? And how many of these poor Namibians are going to contribute to the insurances of those vehicle owners that are taking these poor farmers to court. And what is the road and whatever acts are saying? I see my honorable father, Honorable Butora, is laughing, and that is the situation that we found ourselves in now in Namibia. We don't know how to get rid of the cattle on the road because we are in the communal areas, and if they are found and banned on the road, we should pay for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Those honorable members, those are the questions addressed to His Excellency. I'm assuming this is really our last round. Your Excellency, may I request you to respond as best as possible?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think the issue of drought and food security, everybody is concerned about that. And as I said, it is the duty of the government, the duty of the cabinet, the duty of the line ministers to make sure that information are gathered exactly, constituency by constituency, region by region, how much, how severe, in terms of, first, the people, they must have food, the livestock, if they have livestock, the water issue, and so on. So we don't have to quarrel about that one. The issue of mechanization, for sure, if Minister Schlettwein was here, he would tell you how many tractors. I already in my speech, I think over 300 tractors have been distributed. The issue of funding, we said already that dividing the cake, the financial cake of the country, is one of the most difficult things. You don't know where to put and so on. But we should make sure that we produce our own food. There we agree. We cannot continue to depend on others. That's true. Okay? On the issue of education, the issue of the admission, I think that is outstanding item, is attracting attention of everybody. The Minister of Higher Education and all of us must get involved so that we make sure that if somebody has studied to a certain level, be allowed to complete that course and move ahead. The complication of the criteria, we should leave that to the expert in terms of education and also running those institutions. We should have a policy that we are spending money on education. We cannot have people artificially stopping at the level where they should have proceeded ahead. The issue of the youth development funds, one thing, Honorable Mbangu, the President has not passed the laws. The President cannot be the one just issuing. So if there is something about this law, this funding, the law that deal with this fund, divided in Parliament, divided in Council. If you approve it, I'll sign it. But don't come here and preach me about how those things are done, please. The issue also setting the allowance and setting the money that should go to the student, that the institution, the ministry, the Minister of Finance, the Prime Minister, then the President will have to do that. I don't know who is older. Uncle Dudu, the thing you are talking about, really, we should definitely examine that. First, whose land is it? Who gave the permission for such a thing to be done? I remember long back at the beginning of independence, first 5 or 10 years, there were people who were saying that the mountains of Kayoko, as the rocks are so hard, they can create something there and put this type of radioactive material. Was rejected long time ago. And anybody who is going to come up with something like that in the middle of the town, for that matter, as of tomorrow, we must have an answer. Who gave the permission? Who gave the permission to do such a thing? And those materials have to be dealt with at the highest level of government, not the local authority doing whatever they want, not individual doing whatever they want. Those are things that they are regulated internationally. There are regulated internationally. There are procedures how to do them. And if somebody does that and play with those things, and people are hurt, and our economy is spoiled, tourism and so forth, and it is terrible. Okay. So we should all look at that. I'm glad you are reporting it. I think I have picked it up from somebody else also. So we are following it up. Then, Iambo. First, I applaud you for recognizing that Africa needs to make real progress. Real progress in terms of true independence. Okay? That the divide and rule still exist, and the bigger countries are applying it very well. Then, how do you see the problem is once something happened, you are talking about erasing the Berlin Conference decision and so on. Okay, you can reverse them, but in terms of record, they remain. Okay, what is done is done. What is not done, we can avoid, but we don't have to live according to the rules and dictate of the Berlin Conference. But then, two things. Investor 50-50, or they should part. You should part company. That's a good thing to say, but then you're 50%, and you now have 100%. The problem is you don't have the money to develop your mine or your whatever, and you don't have the expertise to do those things. First, you have to train your people. Second, you have to have enough funding. But it's one of those, it's good when you do it, it's bad when you don't do it. So that should be the eventual aim. But if you just say that I would rather have my minerals in the ground, or you don't want people to have their factories if you have the energy to do it, it is a question. The other thing where I should reprimand you, my neighbor, don't go around mentioning other people's tribes. Why did you not mention your own? But I'm just saying, you only mention one. It's not fair to mention other people's groupings when you could have used your own. Okay. The drought relief and climate change is this. You cannot have something sustainable which is pulling you down. Okay. You can only mitigate the damage being caused by drought. But you cannot have a sustainable what? You can have sustainable agriculture by irrigation and so on. But but the climate change is true, is here with us, and that's why we have to train how to produce our own food in many other ways. There are many other ways we can do it. That's done. Comrade. What have I done today? That you are so kind to me. You have never been kind. Maybe you, maybe now that you are. But please, I am going to answer this, but I'm not going to answer another question that comes later. We can talk about that later. The green hydrogen issue and my position on mixed energy. There are many. First, you have the hydrocarbon. You can produce your energy with coal, gas, whatever. Then you have the green one, the solar power and so on. Then the last one, the key one, is uranium, by using uranium. Okay? The thing is, whatever, I had a friend who graduated at the same time with me, and we came back to Swapo camps to teach. Simasiku, he studied electricity, and he was very closer to energy. I studied biology, I was not close to that. And he was, some people in exile say, why don't we develop our own uranium and so on. By then his only question was no. And first of all, we scare ourselves for nothing. To develop nuclear energy, you need a number of engineers, top ones. You need the mechanics, you need this and you need that. So nobody is preventing us from doing that. But for now, let us deal with solar energy and all this green hydrogen. Those are things you can manage. The other thing, if then you do it the wrong way, as the Russian will say, do svidaniya, that means goodbye. So that you can destroy yourself with that one. Then the issue of petroleum. I am glad the water is, the petroleum is in the sea. Nobody can say you are taking my land or anything. It's a common heritage for all of us as Namibians. The issue of getting license, some people know how to apply, some people don't know how to apply, don't even know where to get those things. And I think instead of just talking unprofessionally and unwisely, if there is somebody who has done something, if the minister is not giving the license properly or giving them to his relatives or cousin, let's say so. And let's challenge that allocation of that license. Then the issue of research and development is always underfunded. And we talk very friendly about intelligence and so on. The intelligence we have is to make sure that our countries are safe from enemies from abroad. And if we want research in terms of sciences, in terms of health, in terms of issues, we must create those institutions. Partly, some of universities are doing those things. They have the capability. So we should not fix the intelligence. There are many people, everybody is intelligent, or as many people are intelligent, but those who are trained to make sure that there are not people who are coming here to cause trouble, let them do their work. Those who want medicine, let them do their research in medicine, in food production, and other things. The resources, as I said already, is always limited. The issue of, I have an answer here from the issue of Ministry of Industrialization, Trade, the board, Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board. My note is saying we assist with the implementation of the recommendation of the national, this one was on education. Okay, the balance need to be struck. The ministry that should do its work, the the board should do is promotion of investment. And I'm not going to say that it should be transferred to my office. My office has enough work already, okay? And I don't want now you bring it to me and then you say, I gave you this thing and you did not do it well. Okay, so then the issue of my friend in the Zambezi, the mining, this is one here. The Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration, and this is Defense or Home Affairs? Defense. The Ministry of Defense and their counterpart in Zambia are coordinating to make sure that they remove those landmines. Okay? So now you know who to approach next time. The issue of the campus, UNAM campus at Katima and the modules and so on, we have already discussed that and say let the Ministry of Higher Education, let the universities themselves, and let all of us question them. We want our children to pass their examination and go and get their employment. My good friend, how are you? Yeah, now they will go the road. You see how things develop. You get such a nice road. And instead of people celebrating, you got a road, now their animals are being disturbed. Life can be tough. That is why in what we should do, you produce a road, then you have to put the fences alongside the road. When I drive to the north, I'm safe between Ochuarongo to Otavi to Tsumeb to Oshivero. But after Oshivero, it's everybody's land. Cows and after you pass Oshakati, other animals too. So really first, it is difficult to avoid that. The problem is, I don't know what are we going to do, that somebody's, because your animal, my car bumped in your head of cattle. Now I have to contribute, you have to contribute. No, that is what we should iron out. That's really illegal. Yeah. It's actually people being threatened for nothing, okay? The issue of the marginalized group, who is marginalized? When are we marginalized? During the drought, all of us are in trouble. But we should also know that some of us have at least a goat and a sheep. That is, we can't be compared to somebody who have nothing. Some of us has our own little plots of land where we can produce. We should utilize that, and not to say, because my neighbor is getting something, and you know the background of your neighbor, you know the cultural heritage, you know everything, but let us be fair so that we help each and everyone to survive. Yeah, the issue of resettlement criteria is one thing we have to check, how proper, how good, how helpful. And really, it will be a shame if we make it for those who are already doing well, and not who really need a piece of land in order to live, to stay and live on their own plots, and also to have something to be able to do. You have a goat, you have a sheep, you grow up, you grow, you have a tree of your own, you plant, and so on. So road and cattle insurance, I don't think. Yeah, there may be some people who know how to do the insurance, but now when I went to school and became a teacher, so that by 2 o'clock I go home. I'm not going to be here like Gaingob until 8 o'clock. I am a simple teacher, I teach, and after 5 I go home. Honorable Speaker,
Thank you
very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Two things before we conclude. The Honorable Sophia Shaningo, you wanted to put a quick question?
Not really a question. I don't question my president. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Comrade Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, our president, and Madam, Her Excellency Comrade Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, our Prime Minister, our Vice President. Yeah, we are still, I'm still in that period. Sorry, Your Excellency. Comrade Speaker, I really want to thank very much our President for the manner he has handled the SONA, the first time in the House, in the Parliament of the Republic of Namibia. Secondly, I would like to thank our President very much for the manner he has handled the transition after our beloved President, Dr. Hage Geingob, may his soul rest in peace, the manner that Dr. Nangolo Mbumba has handled the transition. I think, Comrade President, you have also demonstrated your capacity and your capability this afternoon, that you can stand the questions from that side. And you have done your best, and congratulations, Comrade President. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was going to be, yeah. Your Excellency, allow me once again, on behalf of the members of this House and the Namibian people out there, to thank you personally and to extend our collective best wishes to you as you lead our nation towards greater heights. We wish you all the best in directing our nation with your cabinet, your entire team, and we thank you for your compassionate focus on the peaceful and prosperous future for our country. That said and done, I now declare the fact that we have now come to the end for this joint session. I will now call upon the Right Honourable Prime Minister to adjourn this joint session until further notice, and the National Assembly to reconvene on Monday, 18 March 2024 at the usual time. The Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, our President, and the First Lady, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Namibia. I would like to firstly thank His Excellency the President for that inspiring State of the Nation address, for giving us hope and for comforting us after losing our President. Now, having said that, I would like to propose, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members of the House, that this House adjourn this joint sitting of the two chambers of Parliament adjourn until further notice, and that the National Assembly reconvene on Monday, the 18th of March this year at 14 hours 30. I move so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I call on the Sergeant at Arms to escort the presidential procession out of the chamber. But may I request the rest of the members to remain standing.
Welcome back. You're watching NBC. That was President Nangolo Mbumba delivering his maiden State of the Nation address in Parliament and also addressing questions from opposition politicians. Madam Nangolo, the Prime Minister just referred to the State of the Nation address by the President as one that was inspiring, one that instilled hope, but also one that was comforting as far as recently having lost President Hage Geingob is concerned. What do you make of that description, and how would you describe the State of the Nation address?
Thank you very much, Denver. I think it's an honest description of what transpired here today. When Dr. Nangolo Mbumba took up office, his role is to finish the tenure of the late president. And we are seeing that even in the State of the Nation address, as was mentioned earlier here, he's not here to reinvent the wheel. He's here to carry on and to ensure that the commitments that the late Dr. Hage Geingob made are realized and that they are concluded. And I think that is wonderful to see, and it's also inspiring to see that despite the fact that we've lost such a giant as a country, the work continues and his legacy continues, and we are seeing that Dr. Nangolo Mbumba is also continuing the work very brilliantly, and we must applaud him even with the State of the Nation address in ensuring that he gives an honest reflection of Dr. Hage Geingob's administration and where we are now as a country and where we have to move towards. So I think that is really, really wonderful to see, and we're excited to see him conclude the legacy in this year.
You're making an interesting point. What we did hear the President say when someone challenged him about how we're faring in terms of housing. He said, what I can do is to tell you what it is that we've done. I cannot make empty promises. I can't commit to something that we will not execute. What does that say about the President?
I think it speaks to, firstly, his character, the honesty and the transparency in his leadership, to say that we are not here to sell dreams to the Namibian House. We are not here to lie to the Namibian House, but we're going to be very honest, and we are going to interrogate it as it is and be honest at the end of the day. So really, for us as young people, it's good to see that our president, our government continues to be honest and gives honest reflections.
Ms. Odada, when the leader of the official opposition asked the President whether or not he will testify in court if that is on the cards in the end, and the President was clear that if he gets indicted to testify on his tenure as the then Secretary General of the ruling party, he will definitely do so. And it was a public commitment, it was a public undertaking. What is your take on what transpired during those moments?
Yes, thank you very much. Again, in line of transparency, the President still stands firm on the issue of transparency, that I have nothing to hide. If I'm called, I will be there and I will answer questions as myself. And he keeps on saying that, he went on ahead to say that if somebody has got anything against me or about me, you can still go ahead, I will be able to represent myself. A president who's standing firm, standing tall in front of the Namibian nation and saying, I have nothing to hide, I'm here to serve you, you are the bosses, I'm your servant. Was very interested in that part where he said, I will go and I will testify.
What we know about the emerging industries, and we've touched on it earlier, is that none of it will be possible without sufficient research and development. Mr. Eni Sabeb from the Landless People's Movement did flag a concern about inadequately capacitating the research and development component. What's your take on that?
A very good question from Mr. Sabeb. Last week when we were having the post-budget discussion, that was also an issue that was raised to the panelists, saying research and development has been and continues to be underfunded. And it's a clear picture that whenever you research something on Namibia, you will find very little written by Namibians, but by other people outside Namibia.
Let's perhaps take one slight step back, Mr. Odada. Help us understand, why is research and development so critically important, and why is research and development by our own researchers so important?
Yes, research and development informs decisions. That is, I'm going to be making a decision based on evidence. So if we cannot gather that evidence, meaning we are bound to make wrong decisions. The fact that it's not funded also worries me. But the question, like the Dr. President said, how to cut that pie becomes a problem. You will not make everybody else happy. So therefore, there will be at times that people will complain. Even if you are now to put more money on research, somebody would be claiming, but why are we now spending more on research? So it's a matter of balancing act. But what the president says is that he has acknowledged it. And he says, all of us, we need to look at what do we do. It's not only the government. For research, I even think that the private companies could also come in and say, okay, we also need this information in making our decisions. Why don't we partner with institutions of higher learning or any other research institution that's available so that we can be able to provide evidence that will help us in making right and informed decisions going forward? Very well. Would you like to say something about that, specifically as far as it relates to the collaboration between both the public and the private sector?
Definitely. I think, like it was mentioned, there must be a connection, there must be a link when it comes to the private and public sector, especially when it comes to research in the country. As much as we have institutions of higher learning that are focused on research, like UNAM and NAST, for instance, the research facilities still remain underfunded. So there's still a lot of work that still needs to be done in terms of capacitating our research capabilities as a country, but also ensuring that it's not just, the efforts are not being pulled by government alone, but private sector also has a very crucial role to play in terms of funding and encouraging research in the country, specifically local research.
One MP also expressed concern about what they term confusing admission criteria, that all tertiary institutions are still not on the same page in terms of what it is that they will accept from high school and what they don't. Do you concur with that stance? And do you think it's a matter that deserves more attention so that that purported or actual confusion actually gets eliminated?
I think we should put a name to the issue. The issue is whether institutions are accepting ordinary level learners or not.
We should not be beating about the bush.
Let's not beat around the bush.
Very well.
Whether we are accepting ordinary level learners, grade 11. We have institutions like NAST that are willing to take in these learners, but we have institutions like UNAM who are steadfast to say that, look, we will not take in this learners. So of course, that is an issue, but Denver is a very complex issue because you have institutions that are saying, look, we are lowering our international ratings when we take in these learners. And at the same time, we are saying, but what is the purpose of having an exit point if these learners are unable to go to institutions of higher learning? That's also a crisis. So there must be concerted effort to ensure that we align the entry point with the aspirations of institutions, also the ratings at an international level. Because we are saying, look, grade 11 ordinary level is similar to your grade 12 with the old curriculum, but institutions are saying there's a difference.
In all fairness, do we listen to the stance of the custodian ministry of that cohort, namely the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture? And if we believe that TVET will help transform the economy and help accomplish economic emancipation for our country, and we say the throughput that we achieve there is directed in that direction, as opposed to advanced subsidiary where we prepare pupils to better pass on tertiary level. Do we understand the distinction between the two? Do we hold sufficient space for that stance?
Unfortunately not. To be honest, as much as, yes, we are preparing our learners to be able to thrive at institutions of higher level, at the same time, we are hoping that the majority or a large number of the learners are still able to move into TVET to then, develop the TVET industry. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Like I've mentioned, yes, TVET is potentially going to contribute to our economy. Yes, it's doing a brilliant job. However, like I've mentioned earlier, it's under-resourced. TVET, we are pushing thousands of learners into TVET, hoping that they can move in there and, of course, contribute in that regard. But it's still under-resourced. We have trainees that don't have toolboxes. We have VTCs that don't have the resources, that don't have the materials and the infrastructure needed to offer the education or the training that's relevant or that's necessary. So unfortunately not.
Thank you. Ms. Odada, but pushing a grade 11 ordinary level pupil to university and there they don't make it, is that also the answer, in all honesty?
It's not, and we have to look at this thing critically and carefully, and I think there was no thorough consultation that was done before this new entry requirement of
The
saying...
Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, let's also be cognizant of the fact that they're not represented at this panel this afternoon, but they are adamant that there was thorough and continuous consultation. We of course may differ with their stance, but we also just need to put it on the record that that remains their fervent stance.
Okay. Anyway, so what I was trying to say, that there seems to be that not seems to be the case, and I understand, but what we should be cognizant of is that go and even speak to people in the industry, for example, the commercial banks. These banks are still adamant that when you go for employment, they will require you to have passed grade 12. So that's a very big concern for me, that somebody that did not go to grade 12 but actually managed to go to an institution of higher learning may still not get employed because the employer outside there is still looking for grade 12 result. Secondly, we should all not only looking at these students to be schooling in Namibia, these students should be competing internationally. The question is, can these students now go into South Africa, having come from grade 11, to go into the UCT, the Stellenbosch, the
in the event that I don't have the academic and the cognitive capacity to go to an institution of my choice and be successful, what would your recommendation be?
Of course, that's the point I was driving to. Education is a human right, and therefore people should have choices and they should not be forced. Currently, what's
Even
happening,
if you lack the capacity, is that what you're advancing?
No.
Yeah.
What is happening currently is that we are forcing students, we are giving them one way of doing things. I think what we need to go back to the drawing board and see that what should be the best way. I think the best way is, if I want to exit at grade 11 and I want to go to VTC, that should be my choice, but I should not be forced by being told that the only choice I have for you is VTC.
Irrespective, again, and I don't want to belabor the point, of my cognitive and intellectual capacity, because if Denmark Kisting says, notwithstanding my capacity, I want to pursue a career in medicine. In fact, I will specialize after my undergraduate, but I do not have the capacity in terms of aptitude. What would you then say?
Of course, that's why we have the different entry requirements in every field of study. If you do not meet that level, then they should not be admitted at that level. But if we are now, that's why I'm bringing the point of, if we are now telling somebody that they need to go to VTC, what if that person does not have the capacity to survive at the VTC? You see, so what needs to happen again, of course, it could be taking us back, but I think we rather go back and correct what is not right. UNAM has taken a stand that they're not taking those students and they have given their reasons. So they need this, and actually UNAM has actually even now put up a program for them, a readiness program that could allow them to gain that cognizant level that could allow them to advance into the institution of higher learning. The question now that remains is, how about we have that national conversation, everybody involved, the people in the industry, institutions of higher learning, parents, Ministry of Education of Arts and Culture. Therefore, we can also go back and benchmark what is happening with other countries.
Thank you very much. We also heard of an instance, Madam Nangolo, at a tertiary institution where students thought that they were done with their degree. And when the time came for them to graduate, they had to learn that a module is pending on account of what happens at a campus of this particular tertiary institution in a town. What is your take on something like that still happening in 2024?
I must say, and not speaking specifically for the particular university or campus that was being highlighted, it angers me that it's happening in 2023, that we have students who, firstly, you have student debt. You've been struggling for 4 years to be able to pull off this degree. And at the end of the day, you are being told you cannot graduate or you cannot get your degree or enter the job market because of a module, because of a mere administrative issue that was supposed to be addressed at institutional level. It does not sit well, and I feel like institutions must be held accountable, because there is no way students are paying tuition fee. They've been in the university for 4 years to get a degree, and suddenly the management realizes there was a module that was not completed.
How would accountability in that particular instance look like? So if you're insisting that that institution, whoever made the call, whoever is responsible for the oversight, needs to be held accountable, what do you think needs to happen?
I think when we look at, before I address the issue of accountability, from the student community, we've constantly raised the issue of administration of institutions in this country, institutions of higher learning in this country, where unfortunately our students are constantly on the receiving end of bad administration and bad management decision making at institutional level. It's not just for this particular case. We have students whose academic records disappear. So it doesn't. So it's
criminally, or in terms of human behavior and oversight.
In terms of human side, we have students, especially. Let me not mention the institution, but I have received cases at a particular institution where a student has been doing a certain course, and all of a sudden, when it's time for them to graduate, their academic transcript cannot be found. So it's these issues.
So what would you propose needs to happen? How must that institution be held accountable? How must the representatives of the institution be held accountable?
I think, firstly, in terms of monitoring and evaluation of management and administration at institutions of higher learning, we cannot run institutions that are tasked with human development in this country, with capacitating crucial players in the economy, with running institutions like banana republics. There must be strict administration, number one. But
you shouldn't generalize. Can I just ask you to be cautious about the statement that you're making? But very well, you may continue.
But also there's, my train of thought has been disturbed a bit, but...
my apologies, yeah.
A lot of work needs to be done to ensure that our institutions are, firstly, not just the academic standards are high, but also administrative standards are also very high. I think that's very crucial.
Thank you so much. Ms. Odada, what also featured this afternoon, issues relating to land, issues relating to agriculture, and there is a concern that we need to become food secure as a nation, and therefore we depend heavily on agriculture. However, it does appear that agriculture is not sufficiently funded. What is your take on that?
Yes, the issue of land is a very big issue because we look at the basics of any food security. It has to start from land. And therefore, if agriculture is not properly funded, it becomes a big question of what would happen in the next few years going forward. However, I think the president made a call there to say that, again, we should not put the Minister of Finance in a corner that much, because how to divide that pie among very many ministries become an issue. But maybe going forward, we need to look at agriculture in another way and see what we can cut from where and add to agriculture. Truly speaking, agriculture is the only way forward. Food security is number one, because even if we are talking about school feeding program, if we are still going to import food, that will involve money. But if we can produce food locally, that will save us money. So I agree that agriculture needs to be funded, but it's not only just a matter of funding agriculture as that. We also need to upskill the people who are going to work the land. We need to bring in these tractors, all the materials needed to work the land. So I think it's a two-step thing whereby it's just not saying money is in agriculture. How then do we upskill, reskill, and also put the materials that are needed to work the land available, or even subsidized from the government perspective? On the issue of the institutions of higher learning, I come from one of them, and this is a very critical issue, and I do not want to be seen to be defending, but I also think from the student's perspective, when I'm doing a course, there are books, rule books that outlines what I need to do within my 4 years. So I should also be very cognizant to keep on checking that, have I taken all my full load within my academic career? Sometimes,
let's say I do that meticulously and I check and I tick it off, and at the end of my academic career, the proof of what I did vanishes from the system. What do I then do? Despite having checked very meticulously every single year that every module that I need to do within the first academic year gets ticked off.
Yes, of course, that's a technical one. That's very difficult to defend. But what I wanted to bring in point is that sometimes we revise our curriculum. And when we revise our curriculum, you find that there are some students who are lagging behind with a module or two. So therefore, there's a confusion. The student thinks that I don't need to do this module because I'm now in this new program. But in reality, you should have continued with that module.
To attain the minimum number of credits.
Yes. So from our side, the institutions of higher learning, that is what we should be checking. Because actually, also before a student graduates, there is that period where we call the promotional period, whereby we need to tick and check. And we have had instances whereby when I'm going to tick out, I then realize, but this student did not take this module. And also students change institutions. So somebody comes from UNAM, goes to NAST, somebody comes from NAST, goes to UNAM. And maybe I come from NAST, go to UNAM, then I think I'm in the second year or in the third year of UNAM. But then there is 1 or 2 modules I should have taken from UNAM, which is a core university module.
Thank you.
So these are issues that needs to be looked at both sides, the student and the institution at the same time, to avoid this kind of issues.
Mr. Odada insists on playing the devil's advocate this afternoon, but be that as it may, we've unfortunately run out of time. We have listened to President Mbumba delivering his maiden SONA, probably his only SONA. What is the way forward in terms of the responsibility that he is clear on and that many MPs agree with, that a responsibility vests in all of us to implement and to ensure that we address the challenges? What's your take on that?
I think what the president has put out there that was very clear is that this is not only the work of the government, this is the work of all Namibians, and we should assist the government in executing what had been planned. And he's saying he's not going to bring anything new. We are going to continue with what has been on the channel, what is on the tunnel, and that's what we want to finish. In finishing that, is imploring everybody to please let us put our efforts together, let us support one another, and let us leave the Namibian house where nobody is left out, and whereby it's one Namibian house for everybody.
Asante sana.
Karibu sana.
Madam, you have the final word this afternoon. What do you believe needs to happen, particularly in those areas that you're passionate about and that you have the mandate over, but also in general as a Namibian citizen?
Thank you very much, Denver. Like Dr. Nangolo Mbuba has mentioned when he was addressing the question on elections and ensuring that elections are democratic and fair and honest, he mentioned that it's a responsibility that rests on everyone, on every citizen. So individually, we have the responsibility of ensuring that the Namibian House pulls in the right direction, especially in an election year. The responsibility is not just to hold government accountable and to ensure that our systems, processes, and institutions are functional and remain functional, but we also have the responsibility as citizens to participate in democratic processes, especially as young people making up the largest demographic in our population. So really, it's a crucial year for us to participate and to ensure that our voices are heard, number one. But also, it's a responsibility for us as a country to ensure that we pull together as a nation, as what's mentioned, that the responsibility of unity and Harambe and pulling together rests on us as citizens, as ordinary citizens. So we must be able to collectively pull together in the right direction. Like I've mentioned, I'm primarily very excited to see what the year has for us as a country, being the year of expectations. And in these expectations, like the President has mentioned, we all have a role to play.
Tapandula Unene.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your expertise so generously and altruistically. Thank you for your contribution to the land of the brave.
Thank you, Denver.
Thank you, Denver.
And that concludes this special broadcast that had at its core the SONA 2024, President Nangolo Mbumba's first, but probably also his last SONA, talking to us about where the Namibian House finds itself. From me, Denver Kisting, from Sama Moses, from our guests and the entire crew, it's goodbye.
This is NBC One. It's ours.
Chase 'n skelm.
Asseblief. Nee, los dit.
Ek dink dis beter as ek vir 'n ruk wegbly.
Ons het maar min gelukkige memories.
Ek weet nie wat hy hoegenaamd van Edda verwag nie.
Dalk verwag hy niks nie, Celine.
Ek het regtig geen simpatie oor vir daai man nie.
Ag, my magtig.
'n Verhouding is tussen twee mense, Sirkan. En jy sukkel met die basics.
Moenie dit sê nie.
Ons moet hulle eenvoudig by mekaar hou. Hulle is lief vir mekaar, Syfie.
Ek soek die ring. Asseblief.
Fine.